Right, morning everyone. My name's Neill. I'm going to be with you until about 11:30 or so, and we're going to focus on the idea of clash, otherwise known as making sure that you disagree with people. Quite straightforward, but also quite difficult. That is going to make me work very hard. This one makes me work harder than any of the others, because I'm going to do speeches for you, and you are going to do first opposition speeches. That's going to be a big part of what we do this morning. Analysing what I say, finding out all of the things that are wrong with it, and there'll be lots of things wrong with it. I'm going to pretend it's on purpose. Of course, I could give a brilliant speech, but for the purposes of training.
No. There's one, right?
Yeah, big room.
Yeah.
For the purposes of training, I will give less than perfect speeches. So, you should thank me. I want to start there with an exercise because we don't know each other very well. This exercise is called Politician's Bluff, and it's to get you practicing not having any information. What I'd like you to do is to write down, just on a scrap of paper, just rip a piece off, write down a question about something in the world that you don't know the answer to. For example, what would you do to solve the problem of deforestation in Java? Okay? Very difficult question. You don't know the answer to it. Could be anything. Why should... I don't know. I'm lacking imagination. Why should we not give Welsh people the vote? Sorry, really.
No, it's absolutely valid.
So some sort of crazy question that you don't know the answer to that you could debate, that could be debated. Just write that down, one each. Oh, he's making me think this time of the morning. It's not bad. Okay, when you've written that out, it should be the first thing that comes into your head. This is not a difficult exercise. When you've done that, rip it off, fold it up, so we can't see what it says. Just fold the paper in half. Thank you. Philippines. That's it.
One LPPs.
No one wants yours already. Thank you.
B.
Great, thank you. Great. I know every country is different, but generally, when a politician goes on the radio or television and the presenter asks them a question and they don't know the answer, what do they generally do?
Talking about it.
Right, I'm glad. Is that a common experience? How many of you see politicians saying, I don't know, I'm sorry? No, it never happened. Excellent. Really?
Yeah.
Very good. What did they do? Do they have a national holiday when it happened?
No, it was a contest between politicians for the European Parliament, and they were asking each other questions, and they were very specific, and they were like...
Guys, sorry, I'm going to have one kind of rule here, which is when people are talking, we will listen to each other. It's the basis for all debating. If you don't know what's being said, you can't clash with it. Given that the title of this topic is clash, if you start not listening to people when they're talking, you might as well not be here. Okay? Sorry for interrupting.
Okay.
What happened? What was the story?
So the point was, politicians were asking each other questions, tricky questions. So they would make bad impressions for audience and stuff. They were asking very specific questions about the European Union, like how many members does the Troika have in I don't know what situation. And in the end they were like, okay, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not going to ask you tricky questions.
Clever.
I'm not a politician.
So this was a special event where the politician said, I don't know. What we're going to ask you to do, good morning, is to come up here, this spot here, where you could be filmed, which is nice. And you take one of these at random, or I'll give you one. And you have to imagine that you're a politician on TV. And I will ask you the question, and you'll say what your name is, so that we all know. Not everyone knows each other. And you just answer the question, if you can. If you go too long, I'll stop you. But the idea is to try and give a full answer to the question, talking for about 1 minute. Okay? Right. Do we have a volunteer? Excellent. Well done, thank you. Yeah, I thought I saw you move your scarf. Come on, brilliant. You can demonstrate for us, that's great. Okay, is this yours? Is that one yours? Okay, so that's it. Turn around here so you can, sort of where I was standing, so open yourself up to everyone. That's it, I've put you right there. Okay, so you're on camera, and I should be the interviewer. So you ready for this? Hopefully. So, how should the problem of Kosovo be solved?
Well, my name is Filip Dobranic, and when we think about the problem of Kosovo, yes, we have to think about it very deeply, and we cannot give a definite answer on how it should be solved, since the situation is changing every day, and we have to wait for the problem to mainly, more or less, resolve itself. The United Nations, the international community should provide a push towards stabilizing Kosovo in terms of becoming a stable democracy with democratic elections, with a more or less stable economy. But at the end of the day, we have to leave the people to decide. We have to give people the time for them to decide how they are going to stabilize Kosovo. Because when we think about it, the way Kosovo will be stabilized is not the issue here. The thing that we should strive towards is what our goal is, and our goal is to keep Kosovo.
I'm afraid we've run out of time. Thank you very much for covering the program. If there is a classic politician's answer, it's your question is not the question. The question
you should have asked.
The question I know something about the answer to is this: what is my name and where am I from? Very good. That was a great start. Thank you very much. Right. Who's my second volunteer? Someone from this table, perhaps. Well done, sir. Excellent. Right, come up. Find yourself in the right place. Marvellous. I thought that deserved a clap too. But, okay, you can't answer that. It's not really a pleasant. No, I don't think so. I'll have a think about that when we come back to it. I'll change this one slightly. Would you kick Japan out of the whaling committee?
Well, now, although recent conflicts with our country, Japan and the whaling committee, have existed, we have to be aware that Japan's contribution to the committee has been great over time. I mean, their level of expertise and their contribution to what this committee does have been great and cannot be neglected. Now, what our party is proposing is basically that we enter talks on the recent conflict issue, because that conflict is not one that should generate a stuck activity of the Commission. What we need to do in order to progress with the Whaling Commission's activity is to find and negotiate, because that's what we have to do as politicians. Negotiate our way through this, get the experts to give the answers to the questions, and not jam the process of that this commission should achieve because of political reasons, when clearly an expert's opinion is required and an expert's analysis from all of the countries indeed should give us the correct answer to this ultimate situation.
So I'm afraid that's what we have time for. Thank you very much. That almost had information in it. That was quite disturbing. Way beyond what we're supposed to have. Similar topic. Anyone else good on whales?
Yeah, sure.
Great, up you cut, fantastic, well done. Prime Minister, what are you going to do to save the blue whale population in the present context?
Well, I believe it's really important that we
have our minds on every species that we have on our planet. It's really important that the blue whales are those that we really think about. The question about the blue whales is not only what we should do, but what we have done in the past. What are all the other countries doing with the population of the blue whale? I believe we should sit behind the table together and discuss our policies, our general policies on what to do with the fishing. And with the fishing, the blue whale generation is going to be helped. And with that, I believe we can get an agreement that is going to help us, help the environment, help the fishes, and help the global community.
Thank you very much. So what was the answer again? We don't know. Excellent. Very good. Okay. Well done. Who's coming next? Someone from that end again. Very good, thank you. Don't forget to say your name for everyone. We don't all know each other, I don't think yet, so maybe you do. Okay. Experts have said that there's a risk that the new guided missile technology presents a risk of electronic failure caused by ultrasound. What is the government going to do about this very worrying, issue?
Okay, first of all, my name is Anya, and about ultrasonic. Okay, we all have different expectations about this new technology, and we all have our own fears about the guided missiles. But we have to face another problem here, a problem of international cooperation. We have to think about not only about the missiles, not only about our electricity, and not only about the ultrasound, but we have to think about international cooperation. On the point mostly about the electricity. We have to think about how nations cooperate on electricity. We have seen throughout the European Union countries sharing its electrical guidance, its electrical knowledge, and we have to respect that. We have to respect that knowledge, and we have to incorporate this knowledge about electricity into the debate that has been happening about the guided missiles.
Thank you. I'm afraid that's what we have time for. Very good. You are very good at this. Okay, this is quite an excitement. Has anyone ever been to America? Here in this room. You've just been though. Missed that one. Has anyone ever seen America on television? Anyone? You have. That's excellent. Can you come next then? Very good, sir.
That's his one problem.
Sorry?
That's his one problem.
You think?
If it's push and incarceration.
Oh, that's okay. You still won't know the answer. I'm going to change it slightly. So you're standing, if let's just turn so the camera can see you. You're standing for election in the presidential elections to be a democratic candidate. And you've said that one of your policy positions is that you should, in fact, incarcerate George Bush. Would you like to tell us more about that policy and how it would work in practice?
Yeah, well, obviously, we need to understand that this is a complex issue, and America, as a world leader, needs to step together as a point so as to bring forward an effective policy. And when I'll be president, I will certainly meet with other foreign figures to talk about the possible issue that has come up here. You know, as I was governor, I've had to face a lot of the issues, such as this one at hand that we currently have. So I've got lots of expertise dealing with policy and other issues, as opposed to Mr. Obama, who has no administrative qualifications yet.
Can I just interrupt saying you've got lots of experience locking up ex-presidents?
Obviously, creating policy is a complex process, and you need to understand that when thinking about moving forward, doing big steps toward a bright future, we need to realize how much effort has gone into this, how much expert opinions we do require before doing something that will probably be very effective in the future.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Right, we need someone else. This is also a question that is likely to be put to a US presidential candidate. Very good, excellent, thank you. That's great. If you just turn so the camera can catch you, come over here, just by the corner where everyone else is correct. Given the widespread evidence of alien activity in the United States over the last 60 years, why haven't you yet as the government found aliens, and why are you keeping the information of aliens' existence from the American people?
Well, this is one of the main arguments for which you should really go for the president. Because so far the government has kept you all in the dark. I mean, we all have Area 51 and we know that they might keep aliens there, but there is no definite information. And if I would be president, it is obvious that I would give this vital information to the public, because it is obvious that we should know what's going on in the exterior of our planet, and we should know what aliens are doing and how they look like, especially as we are the greatest country and we are the greatest power of the world. And we should know how to tackle this vital problem that the whole world has, that is alien invasion. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite a big concession, but that's great. So, excellent. Nice of you to volunteer. A very nice question for you. Very much. If you'd like to, don't forget to introduce yourself to people. If you just come to the corner, turn around so we can see.
My name is Damian, or Damien on English.
Oh, Damian, that's great. How are you going to solve the problem of human rights abuses in Bhutan?
Human rights abuses in Bhutan. So you gotta know, everybody, no people actually know for this little country of Bhutan. Neither do I. So this country, I think, that is situated in Asia, and lots of countries in Asia actually have these problems of violating human rights. The last example, if you know, was in Burma, or Myanmar, today is called Myanmar, where you had demonstrations from the religious groups and also the other citizens, but after 4 days of violence, 4 days of revolutionary acts, actually they didn't manage to solve the problem. So I think that is a black future also for Bhutan. For those countries, we need international help.
Thank you very much. That's quite a big concession, so I don't know where it is, but you still answered the question, despite admitting that, which is great. Who hasn't been yet? Everyone should get a go. Very good, Simon. Yeah. Okay. Up and up. I'm going to have to make my own question up for you because I can't read the word. Do you think there should be a limit on the salaries of footballers? Don't you think it's obscene that footballers are able to earn millions of pounds when poor television presenters can only earn maybe a few £1,000s a year?
Yeah, I certainly feel sorry for you. But, well, yeah, we have to think about this question on a more global level. We should not think about it only in the frames of how much football players are paid. We should think also about the other players of other sports, or for example, the actors and other famous people, how much are they paid? And we should then think about how much our football players paid in contrast to the other people. Well, I think this is a complex question that cannot be answered just in a yes or no way. Well, I think we should consider it seriously, and I think that this is a serious problem that should be tackled on a global level.
Thank you very much. Very good. So, you've established that there's a problem again. Very good. You haven't been yet, have you? Excellent. Right. We need a question. A question from you lot. What's burning in your hearts at the moment? What do we need changing in the world that this man can do for us?
How would he establish intercultural dialogue between the West and the rest?
Between all of the West and all of the rest of the world? Yeah, good question. What are you going to do about that?
This is a question that is obviously presented by the members of the opposition. It is a little bit provocative question because he wants to know about my states, about my rules, about something that I want to present to the world. Well, I think we should stick to our own country. I think we should solve the problems in our frontier and then go to the other frontiers to make some kind of contact between West and East. because I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have many problems of our own which we need to solve. Thank you.
I think, okay. Well, we're getting more and more nebulous, so I'll stop there. What the purpose of that is to get you saying something, to sort of say hi. Some of you I know your names now, some of you I don't. And also to show you that even without information, you will not explode when you stand up and say something. You will have a little bit more information than that today, and you will have a little bit of time to prepare, at least at the start. Once we get to the second half of the morning, we're going to make it more realistic and give you no time. There'll be a proposition, you'll have 5 minutes to hear what I say and try and come up with an opposition. Okay? Best preparation possible for the stressful situation of standing up there when you have little information and starting to make a very good pitch. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. So, this word clash, that is the title of this morning. What does it mean to you guys? Any thoughts? Who wants to try a definition of what that is? What is this issue?
It's a concept that helps us identify the main points of the debate, or the points where the debate will either fall to one side or the other one.
Okay. And why, I mean, that's very good. Why do we, as judges, care about this concept?
Because it makes your life easier.
I don't think it does, actually. I think it'd be much easier just to sit there and go, I quite liked him. Nice jumper, attractive scarf, you know. I think that would be easier for the judges. So what is it about this concept of clash that means that judges like it?
It implies conflicting ideas, and you have to see, and there is one area, and there are more ideas on that area, and you have to see which idea prevails. And I think that's what clash is important.
Okay, anyone disagree with that? No. Anyone agree with it? Anyone alive? Anyone here willing to admit to being alive? Show of hands. Fantastic. 2 of you. That's enough. We could do an American parliamentary debate. That's fantastic. You are absolutely right that what it does is it's a way of identifying what the most important things are. Here's a crucial thing about this style of debating that we do in British parliamentary. Just because a speaker makes a point, it doesn't make it a good point, or an important point, or a point that anyone has to say anything else about. Okay? If I say, I want to solve the problem of human rights abuses in Bhutan because I met a guy from Bhutan on holiday, he seemed like a good bloke, he bought me an ice cream. You don't have to come back and say, actually I met another man from Bhutan and he wasn't very nice and he didn't buy me an ice cream, so we shouldn't. Okay? That is not required. That's not expected. It is not desirable, although it would be quite funny. So what you have to do is to identify what's important in the debate. What might be important about the human rights abuses in Bhutan? For example, people are suffering. For example, they have no alternative way of seeking their own liberation. These kind of things are likely to be important issues in the debate. Ice cream, less likely. So that's what you do. You focus on the key things. So which speakers in the debate should care about clash?
The summation speakers.
Summation speakers should, yes. All of the speakers is the correct answer. Your answer is also correct, but smaller. There isn't a single speaker who should be trying to say things because they're obscure. Just to be clear on what I mean by that. You shouldn't, in debating, I know sometimes you're told to come up with new information, right? I have to say new things, new information. That doesn't mean that you try and say things that you think are new for the sake of it. You should always be trying to find an area where both sides can discuss it. You don't avoid debate. You don't try and come up with a clever plan. Let me give you an example. This happened this weekend in Cambridge, for a team that lost. And you'll probably be able to guess who they are on the basis of me explaining it to you. This was their proposal, okay? In 2004, United States spy satellites identified 14 camps of the Janjaweed in Darfur, in the desert, with no civilians around them. They're just camps in the desert, nothing else there. Our proposal is we should bomb them. We don't have a plan to solve the whole conflict, but we think that bombing the bad guys, when we know exactly where they are and no one else will die, is a good thing. Okay, what are they trying to do with that proposal? Now, what's their strategy? Why are they talking about the desert and 14 camps and facilities?
Because they know there will be no collateral damage.
Right. And they think that strengthens their side, right? What other things are they doing to make it more, to make it a case that's harder to argue against?
They say we're not solving the whole problem, but what we solve what we have here in front of us.
So the burden on proposition is not to solve the problem, like some of your answers. Yeah? I'm not here to answer your question. What I'm here to do is to tell you that I'm going to bomb people. And that's all I have to prove, that we're going to bomb people, and that when we bomb them, there'll be fewer of them than before we bomb them. That's the burden of proof on the proposition. So what are they doing? They're trying to be too clever, right? They're trying to create a debate that's fixed around the way that debating works, not fixed around the way the world works. And that's not something that's good. So with Clash, you should be prepared to concede real life problems like civilians might die, okay? If your plan is to bomb somewhere, there has never been a bombing campaign where civilians couldn't die, then that's something that you can't pretend doesn't exist. You have to instead argue why it's still worth it. That's what people are looking for when they come to a debate, aren't they? They're not looking for people to pretend that the world is different to how it is. They're looking for people to actually debate real world issues, and that's what adjudicators will like. Okay? That makes sense? At least at a conceptual level? Great. So when people are judging, the last thing to say about Clash is we're looking for always which side was most persuasive on the big issues. And when we talk sometimes for a long time about who won, maybe sometimes there's disagreement around the table, and really will probably back me up on this, the question you come back to when everyone's talked a lot is, okay, step back, which team persuaded me the most? Fair point?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not which point had exactly 3 minutes of rebuttal, 2 minutes of substantive, took 3 points of, these things, kind of important. The speeches should generally have these things in them. But what we care about most, the big issues. So, that's why this is important. What I'm going to do is give you a topic and 10 minutes, like prep time. You are all first opposition in teams, all of you. I won't hear from all of you, but you should all prepare so that you're ready, if I call you, to come up with what you're going to say. Give me 10 minutes on a topic. I'm then going to do a first prop speech. And all I want from you first time are your notes, bullet points. What would you say if you had to stand up there? And also, you only have to focus on the first speech. Okay? So, in a team, talk together, and you're focusing on what the first speaker will say. You can't prepare your speech before I talk. What you can do in this next 10 minutes is talk about the issues and think about the kind of responses that you might want to come up with. Okay? And the first topic is, or two's first, pretty obvious. If I start with you, if that's okay. 2, break you guys up, 2, 2. Perfect. The topic is, this house would make peace in the Middle East. This house would make peace in the Middle East. I might rhyme for a second. Okay, you understand what you're doing? I'll give you 10 minutes to discuss that, think about possible oppositions to peace. War, for example. Maybe something else. I hope something else. So they do one of these. They don't give me before speeches. They're going to do the same exercise with 5 minutes notice. And I was going to do one that is like a puppet. all that you do is entertaining people, say we hate we think about things.
Someone else perspective, right?
Someone says, sure, I would be or someone else says, yes, we think that they should make music, they should make music, but I guess we're going to assume
Birmingham D.
It sounds like there is no peace anymore.
Why don't you repeat have you seen the not right? Yeah, this is good.
Who cares about the United States?
So you also have
there's probably an argument in the idea of, well, US is already there, so going to another one is going to just piss off the Middle East and more.
okay, so you have something like previous intervention has just caused negative reaction. That's just worse than
Yeah, if you would want to. I mean,
We can solve the problem.
go there, check them, forcefully make it.
Even if we
Soldiers will say, okay,
solve it, we will come back. If we are
How do we want to go anywhere and make anything? Or is it a bold one?
no, you can also say it's nobody else's responsibility other than the warrior.
Yeah.
War is the warrior's responsibility. There's no reason why
Okay, 5 minutes until the debate starts. You can offer me points of information, by the way.
let them kill each other. Don't think they're all.
Because every country has
the majority of the conflicts are really have been caused by outside.
Even if we do have the obligation, we first have to take care of our people. Let them die, let them take care of us. When they are protected, with the rest of the world, that we don't care what
cynical argument war is possible.
You are stupid.
We don't
have to buy guns, so oil and exchange.
Yeah, there is
Because that they are killing each other. And if you're fine with that, they have their own.
The people themselves decide. It's a natural historical process that
Doing more analysis and gates for debaters.
Derivation rights and
a big extent.
Should we do a fourth one as well? One of these two. Either the other or foreign incest, World Trade She did the boring ones. Okay, we'll start in 2 minutes.
Probably supplement what their culture around enable them to become that
Cultural indoctrination.
I would just say
That is really a bold one. Yeah, sure.
It's a long, it's two religions in the country, and they're just pissed off about who's got God. And you come in and say, guys, nobody has God, stop them, stop them.
I think if we would just
They're not allowed, then they begin fighting.
Okay, no peace
Under
talk.
cynical. No, it's not. No, that's not. I mean, that the culture is
No peace talk, right? Yeah, that's great.
We should say something like they're not ready.
They're not ready for peace. Yeah. They need to resolve their problems.
I mean, just get that official peace and then build a wall between them.
Yeah.
Break down the
It's trying to get the last next
culture of bloody bloodshed and murder.
That's the argument that people make about Balkans, right? So, look, try it. They just have the culture of killing each other. Isn't that racist? What's this?
He really did pass the concept of chat. As a small town supports cultural murder. Supports murder as a cultural concept.
still works.
Okay, I'll...
Christianity did it?
Yeah. Who's that?
I don't think so.
Is it completely for his brain track? Maybe that's what we
I'd like to call this House to order. Motion before the House is this House would make peace in the Middle East. In first proposition we have Neill. In first opposition we have everybody else. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Neill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The conflict between Israel and the Palestinians has a very long history and a very complex history, and we think it is the central problem that needs to be solved in the Middle East. And once that is solved, many of the other conflicts that exist will at least be alleviated and will hopefully with time be resolved. Therefore, our proposal is not that we can solve every problem that exists, but that our plan is the best of all the alternatives. That's our burden today, and that's what we hope to discharge for you. We propose that the United Nations should send a force into Gaza to police the area. Very much along the lines of the force that was assembled to go into Lebanon last year, It should be under French leadership, of course, and should comprise 15,000 troops made up of representations from across the world. We believe in doing this without the consent of either the Israelis or the Palestinians, and I will explain why. Its purpose is to keep the peace, to protect Israeli troops and Palestinian civilians. And as part of the plan, Israel, and I thank you, I'm outlining my plan, will have to release all the politicians it's currently holding in captivity, which is a quarter of the Palestinian parliament, and the Palestinian Authority will have to take responsibility for paramilitary activities. These will all be requirements on the parties, and they will be enforced using our troops. So what are our arguments? Firstly, this principle of external force. We say that we would love the two parties to find agreement together. We think that would be marvellous, but it is unrealistic, and therefore this is the only route we can go down. Let me tell you why. Israel and the Palestinians both have democratically elected bodies trying to govern them. Okay? They are democracies. That means that the pressures that their people put on the politicians are such that no democratic politician could fulfill the conditions required for peace and at the same time keep a majority of their own people supporting them in power.
Sure.
They would be breaking... Yes, I'll take
Are you
that.
saying that the peoples of this country fundamentally want to go to war with each other, and if so, why not let them?
No, I'm not. I'm saying that they have irreconcilable desires, and that means that as a consequence of that, war is likely, unless you have someone else to blame for the fact of your problems. And it's right that we put our troops in there to solve this problem, rather than blaming each other. No, thank you. They can blame a third party that has more guns than them, Mr. Speaker. So that's our principle. Secondly, we believe that this can work, not just yet, in a second. We think that the French did a great job in Lebanon last year. The conflict was stopped very quickly, and there are now moves afoot to demilitarize the south of that country, offering greater protection to Israel and allowing the Lebanese government to get control over its whole territory. We think that's a very good precedent for exactly how this could work in terms of actually military mobilization. But there are broader consequences that I want to focus on thirdly. There are three parts to this. The first is that a force would give the Palestinian Authority a chance to actually govern its territory in a way it can't now. The reason for that is it would give them the security that Israeli troops are not going to come in and bomb everything every time one lone bomber in Israel gets on a bus. That they can actually govern their own borders, that they can look after the territory that they're supposed to be in control of.
Sir.
Secondly, yes.
On one hand, you're claiming the Palestinians will be able to govern their own borders. On the other hand, you're saying that this is going to be done by the international community. Please decide.
Oh, no, we're absolutely deciding. The purpose of the troops is to allow the Palestinians to govern themselves, rather than Israeli troops, who they see as slightly hostile to them, coming in and on their own deciding we're going to bomb the presidential compound until it looks like a pile of rubble. That's certainly not what the French are going to do. For a start, they probably wouldn't hit it. So the second consequence is that we're going to protect Israel without forcing Israel to back down. It's important that the Israelis are able to save face, to say to their people, yes, there are troops in there stopping attacks from continuing on our territory, but without them having to invade. And lastly, and very importantly, it's going to stop Iran and Syria using the Palestinians as a pretext for funding terrorist groups in the region. Funding Hezbollah is done on the pretext that it's supporting the democratic rights of Palestinian people. And we think that it's vital that that excuse be removed. So what do we say? We say that opposition has to show how they would solve this problem. We're giving you a solution. We ask you, how is it worse than any of the alternatives? I beg to propose. Right. He was awful, wasn't he? Right. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to speak yet. Later we will. But what I am going to ask you, at random, is tell me what would the first two sentences out of your mouth be. Okay? So, at random. In the corner.
Oh, me?
Yeah. Or either of you, whichever of you is doing it.
Oh, okay, I'll do it. What
what the government today has done, they brought forward a solution that supposedly does alleviate the problem, and they brought out the example of Lebanon, while not dealing with the fact that Syria still is building all kinds of facilities to go again. Well, one has still built facilities to go against Israel, and the fact that Ahmadinejad still is against Israel, no matter what kind of a pretense that was just neglected.
Okay, stop that. Thank you. I'm going to be rude and cut you off, all of you. The first thing you're telling me, in response to my prop, is that Syria is still... No, fine. No, just to clarify, that Syria isn't fixed in some way, and that Iran doesn't like Israel.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you telling me that?
Yeah, well, because your plan then doesn't solve anything.
Ah, I get you. So what you're going to try to prove, what you think the judges should believe, okay, see what other people think of this, is that if my plan doesn't make Iran like Israel and doesn't stop Syria being belligerent, then it's failed.
Well, there will still be issues if we've got those two going on.
There'll still be issues. Okay, interesting. What do other people think about that as the way of creating clash in the debate? Like what the two sides have to do? Because that's what he's saying. What do you think? Do you agree? Is that good? Does that sound like a good plan? No idea? Little? Yeah? Please.
I would go for the opinion that the opposition doesn't have to come with a different alternative. It has to prove that this alternative isn't a valid one.
Okay.
And should just pinpoint the holes that exist in the present alternative.
Forgive me, that's great, and we'll come to that as a possible option in a minute, but just that option, let's assess it. What's the problem, or not problem, with that approach?
It's a decent option. I wouldn't do it, but it could work.
It could work?
Probably.
How so?
I mean, you would have to establish that what the government team stated as its burden is far less than they really have to prove in today's debate.
Okay. So you think, okay. What you're asking the judges to believe, and you could all be judges, I mean, in the real world, you know, you go to a tournament, you could be judging. You're asking the judges to believe that unless they really do solve the problem of Iran and Syria, that no proposal can win.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but yeah.
Brilliant. How reasonable would you say that was?
I think that you're never going to find a proposal that solves Iran and Syria. So what you're telling the judges is it's an unwinnable burden on proposition.
Exactly right. I mean, you are essentially conceding a lot, because you're saying implicitly to the judges, you're right, your plan might actually work quite well at doing what you say it will do, but we don't care, because even if your plan works, you lose the debate without the Iran Syria bit, okay? Even if it works at building peace between Israel and the Palestinians, wow, you know, it's not good enough, because Ahmadinejad's a bit mad. So you're setting up a clash that you're going to lose. You've already lost that debate. Really, you've already lost that debate in 2 sentences. Not because what you said wasn't right, clever, intelligent. It's just bad strategy. Okay. So thank you, because that's a brilliant place to start. I know that you wouldn't really have done that, and you're helping me out. I love your teaching techniques. They're brilliant. So let's try a different option and see what we can come up with. And we had one here. Do you want to go through that again?
Okay. So what the opposition has to actually prove today is that the alternative proposed by the proposition won't work. We don't have to come with a better alternative. We have to tackle this plan and see if it would actually bring peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Because on this side of the house, we could just say, well, it is a very difficult burden that we don't really see how it would happen. And this house wouldn't bring peace in the Middle East because we really couldn't. And it's not realistic. But what the proposition should be.
Sorry, I'm sorry to stop you, but I'm gonna. You wouldn't actually say that's part of your speech, right? You're just explaining. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's. I think we get the point. You don't have to come up with anything. You're the op. What you said is all you have to do is show that it won't solve the Israel-Palestine problem. Okay. Different option. What are people's thoughts? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Why obviously?
Because the clash is produced and it can be won by either side.
Okay. You agree with it? Okay. Anyone disagree? No one disagrees. Our usual cacophony of silence. Nobody disagrees. Okay. There's one issue with it. It's better, and at least it tells you what area you're focusing on. Like, will this actually do what it says it would do between Israel and Palestine? So that's closer to the heart of the debate. To say there's no burden on opposition at all to come up with any alternative isn't quite right. Because you have to stand for something, even if it's nothing. If that makes sense. It doesn't. Even if it's doing nothing, even if it's, at the moment, generally, we try to use diplomacy to get them to talk to each other. We think that them talking to each other is the only way in which this will be resolved. We don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know what details they'll agree, but only an agreement reached by them is one that right. That's better. I would hazard a guess that it's the best way to create clash, because you're still, that one, being a bit defensive, and judges might think, well, actually, they can't solve it all on their own. If you just say it won't work, it won't work, it won't work, some guy will get the bus and blow things up. So that is the piece. It's still asking a lot of the judges, isn't it? Sorry, Richard.
I think ultimately the clash was set up for you by one of the first things that the Prime Minister said in his speech. He told you what they saw the government's burden as being. You don't have to solve every problem. And the judges will buy this as quite reasonable, because you can't propose a panacea for the Middle East problem in 5 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So we don't have to solve every problem. Our burden, he said, our burden, and the one we hope to discharge, is to show you that this is better than any of the alternatives. So it becomes clear then that opposition's job is to find one alternative that is better than what he's just proposed.
Or less worse.
Yes. Causes less ancillary harm without actively doing any good.
It's not much of a burden. We think them talking to each other is just better. Yeah. We don't know how it'll work, but we think it will, and this is why. Yeah? So, but you know, people always teach debate and they go, right, what are your arguments, what's your rebuttal? We haven't done that, have we? And yet we've already distinguished between a team who have lost the debate already, someone who's not lost the debate already, and my position, which is one that is more of a potential winner. Potential. Your arguments could still be rubbish. You know, I could do my first off speech in a clown's outfit, dancing and singing the Marseillaise. Okay? And we haven't won yet, but I have given myself a chance. I've given myself a chance. You're imagining judging that, aren't you? That's really important. So let's get into the arguments then. I just want the first argument from teams who haven't spoken yet. So what was your first argument?
As in my level of introduction, or my first?
Yeah, your first actual argument. You've introduced what you're going to do. What's your point? First one.
Well, today the proposition has come with arguments.
I'm sorry, sir. That's very rude of me. I just want a bullet point. Just tell me what it is. Tell us what it is.
How the evidence brought in favor of the proposition is based on precedents presented in a kind of warped way. How examples aren't quite accurate.
Okay, that's your assessment of proposition. What I'm looking for is an argument. So something that says, for example, this will cause X, or this is wrong because Y, or this won't work because Z, or something.
Well, then the first kind of argument I bring in would be a general philosophical one about how the concept itself of fighting to obtain peace is a wrong one.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Right, the concept of fighting to obtain peace is a wrong one. I think we can, obviously, haven't given you a chance to develop that. As a headline, folks, what do you think? Okay? Okay. possible downside of it?
That
You have a couple of examples where fighting for peace did work and where not fighting for peace only caused greater harm.
You've got more than a couple, yeah. You've got World War II. You've got. I mean, it depends. Eventually, you get peace, don't you? When there's no one left to kill. I mean, you know, there's. There are problems with it. The other problem, which that's just debating. Of course, there are problems with it. The other problem is it binds your whole side to pacifism, as far as I can see it. Yeah, which is interesting. You know, it's certainly very interesting approach. Thank you. That's the first argument. So that's, there's a first argument, philosophical one. Just go team by team. What's your first argument? Do you have arguments?
You said
yeah.
This is impossible to do.
Okay.
But what I don't know. I don't have so experience. What I'm going to say is going to be the consequence of that. So maybe we can go on this Council of Security that through that your plan couldn't work because there sits also American, USA. So I probably would be going on the USA argument because I think this plan favorizes more Palestinians than Israel. So I think that USA wouldn't allow this plan in that such a meaning.
Okay, so just to summarise that, it can't work because it has to go through the UN. It favours the Palestinians, and the US won't agree to anything that favours the Palestinians. Yes. Correct?
That's so like legal arguments.
Okay. Thank you, guys over there talking to each other. What do you think of that argument? No, it's a bit of an unfair one, isn't it?
No. I did hear it.
Okay.
Well, for me, it doesn't carry any weight in the debate because, as far as I'm concerned, even if the UN Security Council is going to veto or not veto or make a fuss about anything, it doesn't matter today because USA has been able to do stuff. But at the end of the day, we all want peace in the world, so it's not going to be such a problem.
So your response to it is?
I mean, although they said that the UN, because of the United States, is favoring Israel, right? It shouldn't cause any problems since our borders, or the troops that are going to stand on borders, are presumably not going to be allowed to do practically anything as far as...
So is your answer the US will agree, or is your answer it doesn't matter if the US
It doesn't matter.
Or will?
It doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it matter?
Because we can still do things even if a country did not agree or...
My plan was that the UN should send a force into Gaza, and his objection is if the US doesn't agree, it won't get past the Security Council. And your answer is it doesn't matter because there are troops.
No, I mean, what I would say is that since the UN has not agreed with a couple of things before, but did happen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter from that point on. The second thing is that we can still...
Sorry, just the first thing doesn't make sense. Okay, you can say two things here. One, you can say, you're wrong, the US will support it because it's a good plan and will convince them, which is a perfectly acceptable answer.
Yeah, that would be the second point.
Well, no, it shouldn't be. Your first point doesn't make sense. With respect, it doesn't make any sense. That would be, the other alternative is to say, this isn't, that's just nitpicking. That's just a minor issue about agreement. Of course, this is a great new plan. We don't know whether we'll get agreement, but we'll try. You see, that they're focusing on the practical stuff about can you really do it, and they're not spending time focusing on the consequences. So if you like, it's a bit of a trap. Like, it's a reasonable point, it's a good point, but if you spent your whole speech doing it, judges would think it's weakness, wouldn't we, really? We'd sit there and go, okay, we realise this is hard.
Yeah, but just because there are problems with doing something is never a reason not to attempt to do it. It's difficult having a policy on drugs, it's difficult running a country, but we don't expect governments to abdicate that responsibility because it's a bit tough.
Yeah. So you can even make both answers, which I know would appeal to you, and I think was the path you were going down, where you could say, look, there may be problems, but we don't think they're massive ones, and even if there are problems, we think we can solve them because America will change its position because it's such a great plan. And that's really as far as it goes. If you start saying, no, they won't, because there's this one guy in Congress and he has this, you're starting to get too far into detail. The judges will say, is this the most important issue in the debate? Seriously, the workings of the US Congress? No, it isn't. So, no, fair, sorry, okay. I don't want to dwell on this too much. What I want you to do though, I know I've just asked you for a couple of first arguments. Next time we do it, I'll take questions in a sec. I want you to focus on that first question I asked you again. What is our actual position in the debate? What's our line? It's often worded, what's our line or what's our case? These words mean the same thing really. It's like, what is our overall sentence that sums up what we stand for and what they stand for? And that's what we've been doing. And that's what I'm going to ask you for next time as well as the first argument. Okay? So, questions on that? Yes?
Yeah, if the opposition in the previous example would do something like extend it to a more general, the UN can never take action against Israel idea, could they end up winning on it?
Potentially, yes. If you could demonstrate that the UN can and should, maybe, never act against Israel, then that would obviously be very strong, wouldn't it? Because, you're creating a framework within which to analyse the debate. That's an interesting one. You would have to be prepared to engage with the viewpoint that doesn't agree with you as well, though. That's all. But as long as you do that, that's good. Yeah. Any other questions?
Can you make the whole debate on whether or not it's just saying that it's not our obligation and that they have their own autonomy, that if they want to fight each other, go ahead. That we should not butt in.
Okay. Not a whole debate, because I think you have to go with the even if there.
Yeah.
Whenever you say it's just not our problem, or debaters sometimes stand up and say we just don't care.
Yeah.
Things like that. Sorry.
I would have first argument that we don't have an obligation to go there and make peace, and even though we would go there and make peace, it would be counterproductive.
Good.
Can I make that kind of a
You could do, and you could also say, even if you think you do have an obligation, as the proposition do,
would be a better way.
These are the problems with the plan. Yeah? So then you're not just saying, it won't work because Ahmadinejad's still there. You're saying something more subtle. We do have an alternative. We have an alternative philosophy. We have an alternative framework. So that's very good. The judges are thinking, great. We have a different way of thinking about this issue. But also, this is what we think about your framework and your ideas. That's great. This word clash that we're talking about today, that's fantastic. Because you've got two ways of thinking about the issue, but you're not just talking about your own way, you're addressing the others as well. Yeah? Perfect. Not saying you necessarily win, but it's a really good approach. Okay, let's try this again. This one's a very different issue.
Time for break.
Yes, okay. When you come back, it's a very different issue. And you'll need to look out because there is not a very clear definition. So you're going to have to do some hard work.